All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ferocious Fatherhood podcast. I am Shane from Ferocious Fatherhood. I'm going to be your host today. We're launching our 30 for 30 campaign where we're interviewing 30 different fathers over 30 different days, doing a real quick 10-minute conversation to get kind of their background, hear what they believe is the biggest problems facing fatherhood and the biggest solutions, and just going from there, really building a network here. So today I got my dad on as my first guest, so I'm super excited to have him here. Thanks for being with us. I really appreciate
Good morning,
it.
how are you? Good morning, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How's everybody there?
Everybody's good, thank you. Yeah, enjoying the Pennsylvania weather.
That's awesome. I'll say it looks pretty nice out there, what I can see through the window.
Nice. It is nice. A little chill in the air, warmer this afternoon, about 75. So it's summer slowly leaving the Northeast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So kind of to start off, I kind of want to bring you on, have you give kind of a general background, kind of what your childhood was like. Was your father in your life? How many kids you got? Kind of go like your career, kind of going from there. So go ahead, give us a little bit of a general background on you.
All right. Well, good morning. It's morning here. I'm 61 years old. Been married 37 years. Same wife. I had a mom and dad when I was growing up, very strong in my family. My dad worked a lot. My mom, back in that time, my mom was a stay-at-home mom in the evenings until she finally had to get a job. I got 2 boys, 5 grandchildren. I've got a brand new one. And I had a sister when I was growing up that was 5 years older than me.
Nice.
So what else?
Cool. So what were some major lessons that you learned from your father? So speaking of.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, here, say hi.
So now you're seeing 3 generations of ganglers in front of you.
That's right. 3 generations, and all of a sudden one got shy.
No, that happened.
You want to listen? All right.
All right. So I'm sorry. What's the question again?
I'm sorry on my end. All right. So what were some major lessons?
Apologize for my grandson. Never apologize for my grandson.
You got it.
All
there
right.
you go. There's
What's up?
Perfect lesson right there.
There you go.
So what were some, with you saying that your father was strong in your life, what were some major lessons that you learned from your dad?
So probably one of the biggest ones was my dad worked a lot. He was a hard worker, worked a lot of evenings. So he worked 3 evenings a week, sometimes 4. He would get home after I was in bed. So I didn't see him a lot in the evening. But one of the things he really taught me was together time. Some of the things we would do is as I got older, him and I would take family trips together. We would go camping together and we would do things like that. Sometimes after season, he would take me out of school because he thought it was more important to be with him. And I just feel that's the same thing. And we as individuals, most of us are in a place where we can buy what we want, but we can't buy time. And I think time together is very important. And I think I've led my children to believe that as well. And you might be able to assist with that. But I think to just doing something together, whatever that is, you don't have to spend money to do it. Just spending time together is important to me because you don't have enough.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things Mike and I got talking about the other day was, I mean, we hear it all the time. Every time Christmas comes up, birthdays come up, you always tell me and Mike, hey, I don't want a gift. What do I want? I want to spend time with you. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go do something with
Absolutely.
With you being in PA and me being out in Utah right now, that gets a little bit more difficult. But when we have you, like you and mom over for a week or whatever, like we really try to spend you and me time, try to go out and really do something. That's really cool that started with your father.
It did. And it started because of his work schedule, because of the way he worked and everything. And in growing up, I've kind of done that as well. I've had numerous jobs at a time that often took me away from you guys. But when I was home, it was important to spend that time together.
Yeah, I do think that was a big part of why we are so close now. I think that's a big part. I agree. You're right. Every dinner, we were there and everybody spent dinner together. It was a good hour every single night together, cleaning up, all that stuff. So yeah, that's really a good lesson.
Yeah.
So you said your father was really strong in your life. Was there any other strong father figures in your life that weren't your dad?
There really weren't. I thought about that and I really didn't have that in my life. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. But because I didn't, I still am who I am today.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want someone else in there because it might have changed who I was. But there was really no one else. It was really just my dad.
Okay.
I didn't have grandparents. They were gone long before I even came into this world. So there was just no other connection with another male figure.
Mm-hmm. I got you. So now fast forwarding to, so now you have some kids. So what are some core values that you incorporated into your fathering style with raising Mike and I?
Again, I like to think I did that. Spend time together, do things together when I was home. And one of the things I always told you guys that especially when you went over to like girlfriends' houses and, future wives and stuff like that, to be respectful of the parents. When I told you and your brother, when you had friends come over, I wanted to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
You have to hang out with me, but when your friends walked into my house, I expected a hi, Mr. Jeff, or hi, Mr. Gangler. And I would hi him back, and then I let you guys alone. You guys would go upstairs and do your thing. But I just wanted to be acknowledged. That was all.
Yeah, and I do remember that. I do remember having, when we would have friends over, that you actually had a relationship with them. So it was really cool. I was thinking about this earlier about how when I would also go over a friend's house, I would take that lesson of saying hi to the parents and talk to them. Like I can remember, really good friends growing up and going over and having conversations just with their mom or their dad, about different things that were going on. And I think that helped kind of influence, hey.
So on a segue of that, so we just had a morning breakfast, and my granddaughter was able to go over and speak to the adults as well, which is the same thing I was trying to teach into you and Michael, my other son, your brother, of course. And he incorporated that into his daughter, who she can go and have a conversation with adults and feel really comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
I have all my friends' parents is like I'll talk to them for like a lot of time. So like I'll go over to my friend's house.
And I think that's
I'll talk to their parents at like, I don't know, my friend will be like doing something and we'll just talk, or my friend will be asleep. I'll like go downstairs and hang out with their parents.
And I think that's awesome because then they can also kind of influence you if they are positive role models, which I know a lot of like my friends' families were, upright, not really drinkers, not really drugs, kind of things like that. I know that they would really kind of influence me as well. I can remember Mr. Rob coaching soccer and just kind of him being there and him being a positive role model still kind of influenced my life a little bit. So that's really cool kind of that you brought that up.
That's how it's cool. You were talking about this stuff I ingrained. So I raised you guys that way. And Michael is raising his daughter that way too. Your kids are a little too for that yet, but here is Madison, who can go and have an intelligent conversation with other adults, and she carries herself well.
Yeah,
and even your son, when he was here, I mean, he could carry conversations on being 3 and 4 years old with adults. I mean, at that level, but he was still able to talk to them without feeling reserved or nervous or anything.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of that fine line of like, hey, it's okay to talk to strangers, but here's some flags that like, hey, if these things start happening,
absolutely,
you need to get away from that scenario.
And it's okay in a controlled area where a parent, an aunt or uncle, a grandparent is present as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We teach our kids not to talk to strangers, and we go to the grocery store and the stranger behind them talks and panic. No, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm right here with you. I got you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So was there any other kind of core values that you incorporated into your fathering style kind of growing up? Like
always honesty.
Yeah.
I mean, always honesty. And I think you two were both that growing up. When you did something wrong, you came and told us, and there were repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there has to be repercussions. Mm-hmm. Just because you tell the truth isn't a golden ticket to get out of it, but perhaps the punishment isn't as severe, and you did learn honesty. And I think that's important.
Yeah. And I really think something that's hard to see kind of as a kid in that moment is that long-term trust that gets built. I mean, there's things that like, hey, I can come to you now, and I have that trust of like, no matter what it is, I can come to you, I can say something, And we can, if it's something that you and I disagree on, we can work through it. If it's something kind of outside that I need help with at work, it's really something that you can help me with at work. And it really helps build that trust. And that's awesome.
Well, and it's okay to disagree, but it's you do it respectfully.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, you see enough in the news now of the inappropriate way to do it, but there's appropriate ways to disagree.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
I hear you, you hear me, and you know, we still walk away loving and liking each other, but I disagree with something you said, or of course you disagree with something I said.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So how effective do you view the modern father?
So that's a tough question. I thought about that. And I don't think the modern father is ineffective. I just think the times have changed and the standards are different.
Yeah.
So for instance, when my dad was growing up and his dad, men wore suits, for instance. I don't even have a suit now.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere I can go that I need a suit. But it's not just the suit, it's the demeanor and the gentlemanness, if that's a word.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that whole persona of the man that has changed.
Right.
You know, they look good, they were dressed good. Now, you know, and I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying this is bad, but you know, a lot of men now have longer hair. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is that a feminization? I don't think so, but it's just a standard.
Right.
So I do think there are absolutely good men out there. I like to think that my boys are two of them, but you know, it's just the times have changed, and I think that's what the difference is. And now, of course, everything social media. So a dad does something, you know, stupid like we all do, but now it's all out there.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's always that generalization, the word all, you know, all men do this, all fathers do that. And that's far from the truth. That's far from the truth.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I actually was thinking about this one earlier today too. And I think that, you know, like the saying, like the individual is smart, but people are dumb. I think it's similar to that, like where the individual father might be effective, but in the big society, we might be losing because the times of society are changing so quickly, whereas the times of the core tenets of the family aren't. And I don't think they'll ever change because a family is a family. And you need to have...
The definition of the family has changed.
Yeah. I
mean, there aren't always a husband and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of single parents out there, both men and women, doing fantastic jobs being both, but it's not the same as having an actual mom and actual dad in the scenario.
Right. Yep. So what do you think are some of the hardest problems that you faced as a father, both as kind of like in any stage of life, like whether Mike and I were younger or kind of in our teenage years, or now that we're adults? What do you think was like the harder problems that you faced?
So I guess the harder part was just not being around as much as I should have been. But your mom and I made decisions, and it was important for us to not use babysitters very much, which we didn't do because mom didn't work at nights and things like that. Excuse me. Mom worked around my schedule as a hairdresser, so she could be home when I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think that was, and I mean, you and your brother would have to answer that different. You know, did it affect you guys? I don't know. Of course it did. I don't think it was negatively, but it is who you are today, you know, because of my travel. And I did miss things. And, you know, I won't say which one's which, but I have, you know, one boy that wasn't happy that I missed things. And the other one actually joined the military because I was away in the military.
Yep.
Okay, that was you. But, you know, but yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. Was there any problems that maybe any issues that maybe as Mike and I were growing up that we hit that were hard to overcome, like maybe any like medical stuff, or maybe any outside forces in your career that would kind of translate into anything like that?
I don't really think so.
Okay.
I don't.
So when like I know that we faced problems kind of growing up.
Absolutely.
So was it just like, hey, this is the problem, this is the solution, let's move forward and let's just
Oh,
But
no,
you
it
know what this
wasn't
type of deal?
always that way in our household. It wasn't always that way in our household. There were some stumbling blocks that doesn't need to be discussed, but as all families experience, girls came along and we went to a point where your parents weren't that smart anymore, and we were the same education level that we had just a day before. And you guys were influenced by friends, as happens. And then your parents became smarter as you got older.
Yeah.
Through both of your admission, I'm not revealing something, but through both of your admission, you guys have admitted that we got smarter, but I had the same education level I did all along.
Yeah. So what do you think are the biggest problems that face fathers in a society today?
That's a tough one. I guess, I don't want to blame cell phones and stuff like that, but when families sit down to eat anymore, very often cell phones come out. When you go to restaurants and you see a family spending time together, tablets and cell phones appease little kids now. They use that to make the kids happy so they don't scream, because the kids know that they can get it.
Right.
So I'm going back to the togetherness. I think that's a big challenge. And even if you're physically together, sometimes you're not physically together, if you know what I mean. You can be in the same room, but the TV's on, and little Johnny's watching this on his TV, and little Susie's watching this on her tablet, and there's no communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with that.
But on the other hand of that, so communication is positive because, for instance, look at you and me talking right now. You're in Utah, I'm in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
When I traveled in the military, we used calling cards, which most of your people aren't going to know what that is. And we talked on the phone, and we were lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And when my dad was in World War II, they used letters that took days to get to him. When I was overseas, I ordered you a beer on your 21st birthday.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that without pointing to the phone, this.
Right.
So it can be used wisely, but I do think it's a detrimental as well.
Yeah. I do think so. I do agree with that. I think that it can be sad to see a whole family, kids, whatever, out to dinner and having no interaction with each other.
Multiple devices at the table.
Yeah, and I actually think that starts with the parents, because I see, the kids will emulate what they see. And if the parents are on their tablets, on their phones, whatever, that's exactly what the kid's going to do. I'm a firm believer that the kid doesn't want to be told what to do. They want to be shown what to do.
Agreed.
So like Brittany and I, when we go out, we'll very often try to keep, if it's something where we'll be separated, we'll keep phones and we only use them for emergencies type of deal. But if it's something where we're together, one of us will leave our phone completely in the car. And that way we have a phone if there is an emergency, we need to call 911.
Absolutely.
But other than that, if I'm not going to pull out my phone while Brittany's sitting there and not having a phone, so it's
right.
I think that's one of the better solutions for that. I don't know if we'll ever get there. I think it's hard once a society goes one direction to then revert back to the way that we were. So I don't know if we'll.
My wife and I kid around about. We were wondering if Penelope was born with a phone in her hand.
I hope
they're
not.
using it younger and younger. They're using it younger and younger.
Yeah, it absolutely, and it's something. I can remember when I turned 16 getting a phone, and now you see, 6-year-olds and 4-year-olds.
Absolutely.
Holy crap, this is nuts.
Yep. And again, used constructively, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But abused, like everything else in society, and that's when it gets out of hand.
Yeah. Yep. So then, on that, what were some ways that when we would go out, how would we stay actively engaged? Because with you being in the military, you were gone, and then you, like you mentioned earlier, you took a couple jobs, side jobs that kind of they took you away as well. So what were ways that with being apart that you stayed actively engaged with us?
I don't know. You tell me that.
Well, one of the ones that instantly popped in my head was I can remember any time that you were off, that you would be at a soccer game. I played soccer year round. Every game that you could make, you did make, and you made it a priority to make. So that.
And for your brother, and for your brother, I made sure that I was, there on Sundays when he was racing, when he was bike racing.
Yep.
So I
absolutely.
both of you, and that's what you got to do, and that's back to that together time. When I was home, other things weren't as important. I made sure that I was there for you guys, and it was tough at times. I mean, other things neglected, and I wasn't perfect. I didn't make every game or every race, every bike race, but the ones I could make, there was no other excuse. That's where I wanted to be also as a dad.
Yeah.
It's not that I felt I had to be there. I wanted to be there, and that was a big difference. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I actually think that's something that you don't see a lot of nowadays. Like you'll hear like, oh, like I'll get talking to some of my friends. Oh, I gotta take my kid to a soccer game again, where they're just going to lose and get blown out. It's like, yeah, but you get to go and watch your kid have fun doing something that they enjoy. And that's kind of a
And
hard
what was
concept.
what was my saying at soccer games when you lost?
Let me hear
The
it.
sun will come up tomorrow, right?
Sun will come up tomorrow. That's right.
The sun will come up tomorrow. And then we stopped on the way home and got a cheeseburger with no cheese.
That's right. Big Mac, no cheese. Yep.
Yep. But those are the things, and I'm talking about memories that still 20, 25 years later still brings a smile to your face.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're instilling that in your children, and that's what will make fatherhood ferocious.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So one last piece of advice. Do you have any last piece of advice that we didn't cover for fathers out there?
Nah, I think we covered it. Put down the phone, be with your kids, throw them in the air, catch them. And if you drop them, they bounce.
They do bounce. That is true.
They do bounce. You bounce once or twice. Michael bounced once or twice. So just get involved and want to be involved. And your kids will know that you want to be there. And that's the difference. Don't be involved with the phone in your hand.
Right.
You know, be involved with them, you know, put everything down, go play catch with them in the yard.
Yeah. With that, I think it's really hard for people to understand that those are the type of things that lead to you having a multi-generational impact. I mean, as a father, you're going to directly impact your kids. If you stay in their lives, you're going to directly impact your grandkids, you know, as long as you are alive long. So I mean, right there, you're directly impacting two generations. And then
I agree.
as a grandfather, if you can impart wisdom on your grandchildren, then the impact that they have on their grandchildren, you've impacted 4 generations right there. All by doing those little
change things.
Exactly. All by doing those little things just like that.
Yep.
It's insane to me how simple the solution is, but how hard it is to implement. I mean,
very well put. I agree.
Simple solution,
because of everything pulling on people nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, we regard success as money, and success isn't really that.
Yeah, I do agree.
So.
I do agree. Well, cool. Well, thanks for being on here. I really appreciate you kicking off the 30 for 30 campaign.
Thanks for making me the first.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, I know on our website, I talk about it a little bit, but you really set the bar, and you really set the foundation for what my house is built on. So I want to say thank you for doing that, for being there when it was hard to be there, or, you know, days when you're tired, when you're up all night with a fire call, and then you came home and you still had to perform as a father. So thank you for doing all those little things, and I really appreciate it.
All right, no problem, buddy.
All right, I love you. I'll talk to you later.
All right, I love you too. I'll talk to you later.
Right. Tell everyone I said, hey, go enjoy some waffles.
All right, thank you.
All right, see ya.
Bye.